Everyone thinks UV add pins the version. It does not. Here's what really happens. I asked for rich, and UV wrote rich greater than or equal to 15.0.0. Read the operator carefully. Not equals, greater than or equal to. So that line is a floor rather than a pin, which raises an obvious question. If pipe reject doesn't pin the version, what does? Welcome back. This chapter adds packages properly, reads every symbol UV prints while doing it, and shows you the graph UV draws of your own project. Start with the command, then the thing it wrote. UV add does 4 jobs at once. UV resolves what your request implies, writes the requirement into pipe reject toml, updates the lock file, and installs into your environment. One command where the old world needed 3 separate ones and no environment to activate beforehand. So, why a floor rather than a pin? Because pipe reject.toml describes what your project can live with, and pinning there would stop anyone depending on your package from ever upgrading rich. The exact version gets recorded somewhere else entirely, the lock file, which is the next chapter. You can of course write the range yourself, and UV'll respect whatever you ask for. Quote it though, because those symbols mean something to your shell too. Pin exactly with double equals, cap an upper bound with less than, or allow only patch releases with a squiggle equals form. Now the symbols UV prints while it works, because they carry real information. 3 markers and each one means something different. A plus sign marks a package that arrived. A squiggle marks one that changed or got rebuilt. A minus marks one that left. Once you can read all 3, UV's output stops being noise and starts being a report you can act on. Watch what happens when a package leaves. I added HTTPX earlier, and HTTPX brought 6 friends along. Removing HTTPX takes all 7 away, because UV knows nothing else in the project was asking for those 6. Chapter 0's install, run backwards. And now the command that draws your project for you. UV tree prints the whole dependency graph. Your project at the top, everything it asked for underneath, and everything those things asked for underneath that. But look carefully at this particular tree, because there's something in it worth stopping on. Pigments appears twice. Once because rich needs pigments, and once because Pitus needs pigments too. 2 packages asking independently, neither knowing about the other. And yet your environment holds exactly 1 copy, at 1 version, shared happily between both. Which is exactly the collision from Chapter 0, except this time the collision worked out. Both packages happen to accept the same version, so a single copy satisfied both askers. When 2 packages don't agree, UV refuses rather than overwriting, and that refusal deserves a chapter of its own, coming shortly. Last piece. Not every dependency is the same kind of dependency. Pitus is a test runner. Your code doesn't need Pitus in order to run. You're the one who needs Pitus in order to develop. So it goes in a development group instead, and anyone installing your package as a library never receives it. There are 2 more shapes worth knowing. Named groups let you separate docs tooling from lint tooling from test tooling. And optional dependencies become extras, things a user of your package opts into by name, rather than receiving whether they want them or not. 3 more sources are worth knowing about, because not everything you'll depend on lives on PyPI. UV will take a package from a Git repository from a folder on your own disk, or from a plain URL, and each one is written into pipe reject so your colleague gets the same source you did. One flag deserves a mention on its own, because it's about how you work rather than what you install. Editable means UV points at a folder instead of copying it, so a change you make in that folder is live immediately, with nothing to reinstall. And when you want a newer version of something, UV's upgrade package flag moves exactly 1 thing forward and leaves the rest of the lock file untouched. Which matters, because upgrading everything at once is how a working project becomes a debugging session. Quick check. UV add rich wrote rich greater than or equal to 15. Your colleague clones the repo next month, when 16 is out. Which version do they get? Pause the video here and think it through before I answer. Ready? 15 because the lock file decides, not that range. So, to recap, UV add writes a floor rather than a pin because pipe reject describes what your project can live with. Plus, squiggle and minus tell you what was added, changed, and removed. And UV tree shows you where a shared package is needed twice. Next chapter, the thing everyone told you to make and nobody ever explained, what a virtual environment actually is, in 6 lines of a text file.